The Frenchman who invented the Etch-a-Sketch, a simple-looking toy that delighted generations of children, has died in Paris at the age of 86. André Cassagne came up with the idea by accident, creating a screen which allowed children to draw a picture, shake it out and start all over again. It sold more than 100 million copies around the world, but there was real science behind it, as our science editor Tom Clark reports.
Etch-a-Sketch draws and writes like magic. Turn the knobs and the lines go up and down and all around.
It couldn't be simpler, but Etch-a-Sketch still sells 6 decades after its invention. Electrical technician André Cassagne noticed in the 1950s marks could be left in statically charged aluminium powder stuck to transparent plastic. His prototype toy sold to a US manufacturer, and in 1960, Etch-a-Sketch was born. With just the twiddle of a knob, children could write or doodle whatever they liked and helpfully erase it instantly.
My friend Gary next door, he had one, I didn't. So when I went round, that was one thing you want to play with. It's a little bit like, I suppose, graffiti in a way. You know, you could leave your mark, you could draw whatever you wanted to, but in the safety and the knowledge that you could, you know, delete it if your mum came in or whatever. You know, it was an empty palette. The only limitation was your creativity and the dexterity of your fingers.
Etch-a-Sketch is just a plastic box of aluminium powder that's scraped away from the screen by an internal movable stylus. Polystyrene beads within recoat the screen with powder to magically erase the image. By the standards of today's tablet computers and video games, it's crude. But Etch-a-Sketch was arguably their progenitor, the first ever screen the children of the TV age could actually interact with.
The Etch-a-Sketch, certainly, there's a high level of interactivity with it. I mean, you're not just using a pencil, which is obviously a very dexterous thing. You're controlling this thing with knobs. And, you know, you're controlling a little pointer on a screen, a little bit like a mouse on a computer. And that, again, predates things like the iPad by, well, I'm thinking 50 years. I mean, it's quite revolutionary.
Though Etch-a-Sketch has found a niche in modern electronics, sales slowed since its 20th century heyday, but recently got a boost. A bit part in animated blockbuster Toy Story introduced the digital generation to an analogue classic.
Hey, Etch, draw! Oh! Got me again! Etch, you've been working on that draw. Fastest knobs in the West.
Etch-a-Sketch artists have latched onto the toy for lo-fi lithography, and last year, another lift from a most unlikely political spat. An Etch-a-Sketch analogy used by a campaign aide backfired spectacularly for US presidential hopeful Mitt Romney. The toy was in the headlines for days.
Imagine, had Mitt Romney been around at the time we were drafting our Constitution, he'd have just shaken it and just shook it up after it was approved to rewrite it.
Inventor André Cassagne went on to be a leading designer of kites in the 1980s. But it's the childhood memories of his Etch-a-Sketch that will be hardest to shake.